December back in '63, I was born in Yorkshire, Northern England. My mum said I was a beautiful baby. Well, of course she did. She was completely biased like all mothers. In fact, I'm biased as well. Biased by social medicine, the TV, what my parents told me, fish and chips and real football. But actually you lot, most of you are American. You're more isolated than the Brits, so you're even more biased than I am. And so recognizing that is really important when you're going to have a serious discussion, right? In any case, I grew up on a farm, and that's probably where my love of the countryside began. And when I was 6, I started collecting birds' eggs, just like my dad had done and his dad had done. My dad would say, "Richard, lad, don't take any more than 1 egg and get in and out really quick." Why? Because it's a strong conservation message. And so from egg collecting, I started to know about the local birds. And then when I was 10 years old, we moved to a different area. Thank goodness my school teacher was a bird watcher. So me and a few of the other lads went bird watching to more exotic places. It's quite funny, really. When I was 14, I was asked to sign professional papers at both soccer, real football, and cricket. Now, most young lads in England would jump at the thought of that. For me, I turned both down. And so I often think about those days, right? So what happened before the age of 14 that would change my life forever to become so obsessed with this? Back in the 70s, birding started to take off. And then in the 80s and 90s, I was around in the 80s, it really went haywire. And so why? Why is birding 10 times bigger in Britain than it is in America? And so you might not think this guy had a lot to do with it, but Bill Oddie is really famous. And in many ways, he was the one who changed birding and the outdoors in general. He was on TV all the time, not talking about Antarctica, not talking about Alaska, but talking about people's back gardens, the birds, the animals that are there. And so as a result, it became fashionable. BBC Two, right through the spring, prime time, 8 till 9 at night, is live wildlife TV. It's been going on for 15 years. In fact, it was so popular, now they have summer watch, fall watch, and winter watch. And so birding's everywhere these days. You can go anywhere in Europe, because it's not just an English thing, a remote place in northern Spain here with my daughters, and you'll get state-of-the-art places where it's always a celebration of the outdoors. And in England, I learned to look at birds. I wanted to be part of that fraternity of guys. Yes, it's a male-dominated sport. So ladies, get rid of your harmony stuff and get over there, because it's all guys. No women. But in any case, I wanted to be part of that fraternity, but you had to earn your spurs. If you were seen with a bird guide in the field, it was over. That's not real. Even Crossley ID guides are not real. Reality is right in front of you, and you were taught to look at, think about, analyze what was in front of you. And so it's like filling in the pieces of a puzzle. And so I did. And once I started doing that, the lights went on. I started to see so much more. Over here, we're always trying to put a name on things. Birding is really, really difficult, even for the best. And yet we try to make it easy. And so we just want a name. We don't want to know how to get to the name. Birding is about the discovery. It's about not knowing. It's not about quick fix answers. And taking field notes or painting birds or doing anything in life is about that discovery. And so I came to Cape May when I was 21 years old. As you do in Europe, you spend a year traveling after you graduate. Sadly for me, my 1 year became 6 years, but c'est la vie, right? And so I would come here each summer, work in the restaurants, and spend the money the rest of the year traveling around. But it became my home. I always tell people I don't live in America, I live in Cape May. It's famous for birds all over the world. It has a long history. Why is it so good? All the birds are funneled down by the Delaware Bay and the ocean, right down to the tip. So it's the last port of call. If you climb up the lighthouse, you'll get this view. You'll see a mosaic of habitats, the ocean, the bay. Where those two bits of water meet, you get upwellings of water and lots of food. There are marshes, there are fields, there are trees. It is one-stop shopping for everything. If you're coming from the south, it's the first point of land. And so when we moved here in January of '91, very few other birders lived here. Not long after, it seemed like the whole birding world came to live here. And so to this day, there's probably 100 bird watchers live in the area for this fantastic place. Not just for the birds, but the town itself. In any case, I had a midlife crisis. I was 40 years old. I'd never done a thing for bird watching. Seriously, successful business, just built a house. I'd refused to be interviewed. No books, didn't put a thing on the internet, would not write in magazines. And so when I was 40, I felt bad. A lot of my pals from the 80s had gone on to make a massive difference around the world. I was guilty. I hadn't done a damn thing. And so my wife was, running off with other bird watchers while I was focusing on my vodka and tonic. So I decided I need to grow a beard and really make a difference. And so I went into 4 major things. These were the 4 key areas I decided I need to try and help change. And so one is to make it fashionable, like Bill Oddie and others had done. Make it young and dynamic. There was no youth birding in America at the time, and we needed to change it. And we need to bring everybody together, whether you're a hunter, a birder, a woodcarver, or just Joe Public, and make it understandable, to get people to look at birds, to become voyeurs of birds, just like we are people. So with those things in mind, TV, we gave TV a swing. So a number of years ago, I was over in LA and tried to copy what they were doing on Spring Watch and other programs. Needless to say, 5 or 6 days in, we had to make it a race against my will, but so be it. It went to all the main channels. They were shocked by when it was put on the internet. There was a survey attached to it. We got 4,000 completed responses in the first 2 days. They were stunned by that because they didn't think wildlife sold over here. And in any case, it became a negotiation, but it didn't work. And so the importance of TV is this. It brings wildlife into your living room with stars, so you cannot escape it. It's live, so you relate to it. It's about your back garden, so you relate to it even more. And so with that, then people start looking, getting more involved. So then they go round to the local nature centre. In the case of Britain, it could be somewhere like the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. They employ over 1,000 people full-time. They own 0.5% of England, and they have somewhere between 1.1 million members and 1.2. That's the equivalent of 5 or 6 million. So they have real clout. They want to see the Prime Minister? They're good for 5 or 6 visits a year. When I asked the CEO, how do you do that? Hey, it's simple, Richard. Do you want to lose the next general election? As I say, conservation comes with numbers. Of course, the RSPB does not think they're doing a good job. I'm thinking 5 or 6 million? Actually, they're not. The National Trust has 6 million members, the equivalent of over 30 million over here. And so the potential over here is massive. I always tell people, well, what's the difference between England and America? Well, it's pretty simple, right? In England, there are no birds. You can't get remotely close to them. They're almost impossible to identify because they're all grungy, and it's always raining. But apart from that, everything else is the same. In fact, America is incredible. Done brilliant things, saved all the land over the last 100 years. Fantastic. But we are atrocious at connecting with people. And so we have to change that. And tomorrow's game changers are what? The kids. The kids are so important. So my wife and I got involved with a local school, TEDxCapeMay school. At the time, nobody else was doing youth birding except in Ohio. But the great thing is in America now, there's lots of young birders. And then with the technology, they create a fraternity. Now they're not alone, right? And so they're all communicating. They're into microphones and videos and cameras. So there's lots of things to hook them in and connect them together. So I do believe tomorrow is going to be a great day in America. The third thing, we have to bring people together, right? Everybody. So, even the ducks, right? So you can see the ducks are watching a mating scene, a bit of porn. So we have to bring the birders, the wood carvers, the hunters together. Really important. But there's other ways to bring people together. In America, we build these huge bloody platforms, right? Let's see if we can scare any more birds away. So in the rest of the world, they build blinds, just like hunters do. Why do hunters do it? They would do it so they can get close to wildlife. So wildlife then becomes intimate. It's up close. As you see it, it's personal. And of course, you create a fraternity with other people, like-minded people. You swap stories, you share information. It's a club. And we're not disturbing the wildlife. So hopefully we can start doing that. And then the thing I'm probably best known for, rightly or wrongly, is books. I actually got involved, the first book I was involved with was the Shorebird Guide. I was a hardcore birder, right? But while we started doing the Shorebird Guide, we couldn't get the photos from all over the world. And so I had to go out and buy a camera. The book was different. It was using old school photographs, but it was different to other photographic guides. First of all, it was the first book where the photographs were actually taken by a birder, not a photographer. And so we started by doing what I call impression shots, where birds live, distant specks, because typically that's how we see them. And then we started like we do with people, when the birds are young, juveniles, and progressed as they got older and through the different plumages. It's logical, except other books hadn't been doing that. And we could have done nice, bland backgrounds with nice blue water, but we didn't do that. We put out-of-focus birds in the background. It's actually simplifying the birds, because the basis of birding, good birders, is size and shape and general patterns. It's not about bright colors. And we actually made every image different to the other one. Different colored backgrounds, facing left, then facing right. Images distant, then close. But towards the end of the book, I was having a problem. It's great, but it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because it's not lifelike. You see, photos taken with medium-sized to big lens are not lifelike. They are beautiful, but if you're going to teach people, we now know it has to be lifelike. So how do we do 6 pages of 6 photos on each page and put them into one image so we could do 700 species and not just 70 in a book? And so I went out, got lots of information from other people, asked them how they looked at birds, because obviously most people don't look at birds like the experts. We got lots of volunteers, and I started doing it wrong. You see, back then, you were supposed to use a fill flash and a tripod, and I was confused. Some still say I'm confused, but in any case, you're supposed to put your camera on a tripod and use fill flash, which is obviously is a lie, and then you're supposed to follow a bird that's going at 30 miles an hour and your camera's moving along. What the hell's the tripod for? To keep the camera still? That don't make much sense. So we started doing it wrong and hand holding it. Of course, everybody does it these days. And, we needed to travel light, so I started taking my clothes off, getting into some camouflage. I know Americans are very prudish, so I photoshopped the shorts in, so plus you can stay low and get close to the birds, and it's eye level, so it's more intimate. So I went about to create this new book. I kept it quiet for 2 years. It's probably a good job, because if people had known what I was doing, they would have probably locked me up. You see, I had 11,000 images in, and I was going to take them all. It cost $250,000, 6 years. A complete obsession. Sort of the family didn't see me for long periods of time. And so we created these images. People didn't know what the hell they were at first, right? But we wanted to celebrate the outdoors from near to far. So you could start at the front, the minutiae of it, and work the way through to the back. Look at the different plumages, the places where they lived, in the flock formations, front on, back on, celebrate the incredible patterns on their bills, see them in flight, and of course, in context. So loads of information. And it's not about the answer. It's about the question. Why do they live here? Why do they have long bills? Why are those bills so stout? Look at the different, it's just a million questions. It's just endless discovery. And so this is how we do it. This is a very simple page. A lot of people have actually tried to copy the book since then, but they're actually a lot more complicated. When it's distant images like this, it's quite simple. But when it comes to small birds on branches and things, it's unbelievably difficult. Hence, it hasn't been copied. And frankly, because of the expense, it never will. The biggest problem is we don't know how to use all that information. We've never seen it before. It's complete mind overload for most people. And so it's actually taken a few years for people to get used to this kind of imagery. Once you get used to it, it's really hard to go back because there's just too much more information. And as I've said before, it's just a celebration of the outdoors. And so we're pretty much going to round up. So what does this mean to you? Well, hopefully you can understand some of the stories why it's good for you. It's good for me. Well, let me put it like this. I'm not supposed to say this. Frankly, I don't want to be here today talking to you. This is a cave, and I can't see outside. I want to be outside this very second, because outside I know there's hundreds of raptors flying over. I am a hunter. I've hunted with a camera, binoculars, telescopes. I've hunted for eggs. If I'd been born in America, I would have hunted with a gun. And if I'd been in Africa, I probably would have been hunting for animals, not birds. These are just tools or excuses for me to go back to what I am. Just an animal like all these other animals. I love being outdoors. It's healthy, vitamin D. I can do this 24 hours a day all over the world. And it's just endless discovery. We know so little about birds. We know so little about butterflies, bugs. It doesn't matter what your poison is, other than if you'd been force-fed this like I was when I was a kid, you would probably be very different and see it very differently to how you are now. It is my dream that we will do that someday. We will pipe it into your rooms with TV. We will have magnetic personalities. Those personalities will be young, dynamic, and real. And you will understand what you were looking at, and you will be way more connected to it. And so we must do those things for tomorrow. To finish up, I started with a song, right? So it's obvious I've got to finish with a poem, right? This poem is about a bird called the sanderling. It lives on the beaches in Cape May. So when you're on the beach tonight having a glass of wine, watch the waves chasing out these birds. Now, typically I would call this poem Who We Are because of the connections, how me and the sanderling have so much in common. But obviously today I've got to call this poem Common Ground. We're short, broad, and chunky. We live by the beach. We both run too fast for most people to reach. We've traveled the world. There is so much to learn. Differences, beauty, and untruths. Today, I hope you thought it was your turn. But despite our life of always on the run, it is down by the shore where we have our fun. Rocks, surf, sun, and sand. The beauty, the tricks of light, they all go hand in hand. So I'd like to thank you for traveling the world with me tonight, because it is my dream that one day we will all get it right.